thing that I value the most is the friendship that I have in Mary now, and just seeing this community. It's like 2 acres, and it's got 1 person on it, and yet all these people have come together, and that's just really cool, and that's what I value the most. Kind of surreal staying here because my father once walked these halls. For anyone who doesn't know, this was the old high school, and now 58 years later, there's 3 generations of cars sitting here, so that's kind of cool. My own history with this area goes back a while. My grandparents, my dad's parents, they grew up in Ironton. They got married. Grandpa Weston, he went to the service. He served in World War II in the Army Air Corps and in India. And then he came home and they built a house in Lamar's. Funny anecdote about that, my grandmother especially, Edna, she was incredibly impressed, pleased with her plaster walls. Now, this was a great source of pride to her, and I think because she claims that it was the last house built in Lamar's using plaster walls, and they went to drywall after that. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's 2 schools of thought. Either all the builders in Lamar's immediately quit building plaster walls after that house, or probably more likely is that they had already quit building plaster walls at that point, and they were such hard-headed, old-fashioned Dutchmen that they insisted on plaster walls until they got it. Either way, she was very proud of that. Grandpa, he was the manager of the REC in town back when that was at the fire station, where the fire station is now. And they had a really cool museum in their basement. I wish you could all. They would be really pleased to be here right now because they kept stuff from their childhood and stuff. And, our middle school would get bused to their house, and then the middle school would go down and they would, here's the glove you wear when you pick the corn and all that stuff. And for me, as a 7th grader, it was, it made me feel like a rock star. Everyone in the whole class got to have a field trip on account of my grandparents. And my other grandparents, my mother's parents, my grandpa David, he was in the Navy, and he survived not 1 but 2 kamikaze attacks. And he lived to tell about it. And my grandmother Carol, she would be incredibly pleased to be here today. She was a genealogist herself. She spent years calling courthouses, churches, individuals, looking for information on our family. And then she wrote this colossal compendium, 3-volume compendium of our family's history. And we still have that to this day. And they'd be really pleased to be here today to talk to you. I went to Lamar's myself for several years, graduated class of '98, Lamar's community. I was a very B- student. It was never, formal education was difficult for me. You put me in a classroom and my eyes just instantly glaze over, and I struggle to listen. But my dad and his brother were born and raised here in Mars. Dad went off to service for Vietnam, and he was stationed in California. Met my mother there, and they got married pretty quickly. They went off to Japan. My mother spent a year in Japan. Keep in mind, this is about a year after she graduated high school, and she graduated early. So 1970, she's living in Japan with my dad. So our family has some fun stories like that. My connection with Ruble started like second half of the 90s. When I first got you first get your car keys, get your job, you got a job, you don't have any adult commitments, you spend all the money you make, Me and my friends, we would go on day trips, and sometimes that would take us to Sioux Falls, that would take us west on Highway 3, and there's this sleeping giant on the north side of the road on Highway 3, and if you ever get like teenage boys together in a group, you'll know that they tend to make fun of things that they don't understand. So we would kind of, there's Ruble, Ruble, there's a lean-to on the side of the store, the old shop, and there's some heavy gauge wire or something, rebar or something that's been twisted into the shape of a word, Ruble. So we would, Ruble, and hey guys, it's Ruble. I missed it. Well, you must have blinked. Stuff like that. But it always stuck with me. I always wondered about the history of the place, and for over 20 years, and I made this YouTube channel as a way to kind of channel all my all these sort of disparate interests that I have: taking pictures, history, travel, old decaying places. And I sat down and I wrote out a list of all the things that I wanted to accomplish with it. And I had like normal day-to-day things, and then I had sort of pie in the sky ideas that I didn't think would ever turn out. And but it was something to aspire to. Keep my goals lofty. And one of those things was tell Ruble's story. So from day one, years ago, I wanted to tell Ruble's story because I remembered it. I was so fascinated by it. And so one of the things that I do, I take senior pictures. Hang on, let me back up. First thing I did was I drove to Ruble and pulled into the driveway. There's a car in the driveway. Okay, great. Knock on the door, no one answers. A couple of weeks later, I try again. I had some business in Lamar's. I'm from Hospital. I don't know if everybody knew that. I drove about 35 minutes. There's a pull in the driveway. There's a car sitting there. Okay, great. Knock on the door, no one answers. Mary. So it just so happens that something like a week later, whatever, I was meeting someone at the sunflower patch. Some nodding heads. There's a young man who did planted a sunflower patch as an FFA project, I believe. I recommend it. They did it last year. Keep your eye on Facebook for it. It's really cool. But I was going to meet them there, and I talked to his folks. They were working the place. And I said, you know who lives down the road? That Ruble place? Oh, sure, that's Mary. She used to babysit my cousin or something. I can't remember the exact story, but do you happen to have her number? Oh, let me make a phone call. He makes a phone call, comes back to me. Here you go. So I call her, and I get her voicemail. I believe the first time I called. So I'm 0 for 3 at this point. I leave a message. Hi, this is John from Hospital. You don't know me, but I'd like to bring someone to your property to take some pictures. And she calls me back pretty soon after that. So I have to do the whole thing over again. Hi, this is John. And she says, yeah, sure. Come, bring him over. We brought it up, and then I said, great, thanks. By the way, I have this crazy hobby that I do. I make videos. I was thinking about doing a documentary about Ruble. And I think, if I remember right, you had to think about it, I think. And you got back to me a couple days later, I think. Either way, she got back to me, she said, yeah, let's do it. Okay, cool. I come over, I take the senior pictures, come back, I came back again. She takes me into the store, and she told me all kinds of stories. And we went to the basement, her basement, totes and totes of pictures, newspaper clippings. There's a really cool old photocopy of a ledger that the school used. And there's like 50 years of handwritten accounting, 3 boxes of chalk, 15 cents, paying somebody, Mr. Blah blah to mow the lawn, $1 a month, whatever. And that went on and on and on. And it's really cool because, when you look at history, we tend to look at history from like a macro level, like Abraham Lincoln gave the Emancipation Proclamation, right? We don't really look at it in terms of how many bars of hand soap did the White House order in 1865. We don't really look at history unless you're in a very specific field, I guess, of history. Otherwise, we just know the big events. We don't know the little stuff, and there's all this handwritten information. That was really cool. It was kind of refreshing to look at history in that way. So I took all this information. She's like, yeah, go ahead, take it home. I took all this information and brought it home with me, put it in the car, brought it home, and I very promptly began to stall because I had it all in front of me, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I promised something that I can't. This is me pretending like I have hair. I have not had hair in a very long time. I cannot do this. I promised something that I can't deliver. I don't know how. This is way too big. I got too excited and asked to do something that I'm not ready for. So I'd call Mary, I'd text Mary, hey, this thing came up, I'm going to get to it, I promise. And she would always say, it's okay. I believe in you. She said that several times. I believe in you. The longer it takes, the better I know it's going to be. She would always say things like that. And I would approach my wife about it. And I would say, I don't think I can do this, and I don't have the confidence, and I love my wife very much. She's an amazing person. She is a beautiful, lovely lady who goes out of her way every day to make sure that everyone has everything they need around her, sometimes at her own personal expense. However, she is an incredibly practical person. She has a very practical mind, and she she's always thinking about, you know, the 11-year-old. Does she have everything she needs for school? Are the bills all caught up? She doesn't have the patience for a grown man going, I don't know how to make this video. So her response to me was, more or less, not verbatim, shut up and do it. Just shut up and just do it. I believe in you. Believe in yourself and do it. So I finally got to work on it, and it was about a year after I first contacted Mary that it was finally done. And then the long process of getting the link out to everyone. She called me multiple times. Hey, can you send the link to so and so at this number? Oh, absolutely. But it eventually kind of spread throughout the community and her family. And the thing that I value the most is the friendship that I have with Mary now, and just seeing this community. It's like 2 acres, and it's got one person on it, and yet all these people have come together, and that's just really cool. And that's what I value the most out of this. And I just wanted to say thank you to this Genealogical Society for having me, for asking me to come, and thank you to my wife, thank you to my mother. She's always been extremely supportive. Thank you to Mary for literally giving her entire family's history to someone, frankly, she didn't know all that well. But there you go. Anyway, I really do appreciate seeing all of you here, and I will be back up here. If anyone has any questions, just keep them in mind. That's all I got. Thanks.